It is something that has permeated throughout the NBA for quite some time. Don't talk to me about nepotism being something new. It's been here.
The whole rags to riches thing, actually, it's been done for a while. Because the cost of AAU high school sports rec leagues is like $700 to $1,500.
Kobe, you've been pretty critical of the AAU system and the way American players are brought up.
Not pretty critical. I'm extremely critical. I hate
AAU basketball. I'm gonna leave it at that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate AAU basketball. I think it exploits these kids.
Close to 30% of the league of players born outside the United States. It's clear that the development is very different in many of those programs outside the United States.
But what you're seeing is the players that can afford to be there, not the best players. It is likely 80% or higher, easier for someone with means to navigate their way through the system than it is not.
Slowly but surely, we're seeing more juniors in the NBA.
Sharif O'Neal, Scottie Pippen Jr.,
Jackson Jr., Martin Jr.
This, of course, all came to everyone's attention when LeBron James and Jr. ended up on the same team for the first time in NBA history. But this has been happening for a while and will continue to happen more and more often because, well, it was inevitable. I mean, really, wasn't it? LeBron James Jr. went to the #1 prep school in the nation in Sierra Canyon. He was in national headlines, on the national news. I remember seeing him when he was 10 years old. Duke scholarships and everything. After all, it makes sense. If your dad or mom was good at basketball, good enough to make millions of dollars from the game, then naturally the kid would also have a high chance of following in their footsteps. But in that frame of logic, if the wealthy sons of successful pro players are making it to the league more and more often, what does that mean for the quote-unquote trench babies? The kids with hoop dreams that want to make it out. Like Bronny's father or a few of his friends, who, by the way, have sons who have undergone or are currently undergoing the exact same process that Bronny is. Someone made a tweet a few years ago, and while it doesn't ring resoundingly true, it's a fair question to ask. NBA players don't really come from the trenches no more, do they? What's up, y'all? I'm KipKame11, and yes, this is a problem on multiple fronts. Adam Silver, in the ever-neutral grandstanding positions that he takes, which I can critique but never blame him for, made the boldest statement he possibly could on the state of the American youth development system. That is, do better. Now, am I saying that the youth development system in America is absolutely cooked? This isn't soccer, but the point is, it's kind of getting there. I mean, just think about it. These kids get benefits solely due to the fact that their parents are NBA players. I mean, we're talking about private training, private jets, and filling nutritional meals cooked by gourmet chefs. All things that we can't have because we're regular people. Well, unless you've got a subscription with Factor 75. Factor 75 is the sponsor of today's video. They make meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. They have a team of gourmet chefs that create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. Don't trust that? Well, trust my African dad, who says all American food is processed.
Yeah, that's really fresh.
When I'm coming back from the gym after a long day, there's a healthy, smart option that beats fast food any day of the week. You can get these chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door, with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like Protein Plus, which is perfect for NBA hopefuls not trying to look like Katie at the Combine, Calorie Smart, Vegan Plus Veggie, and more. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code KIP50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code KIP50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Back to what I was saying. Our youth system isn't soccer. It's not completely cooked. This is coming, by the way, from a disgruntled new soccer fan who had the displeasure of watching Team USA live at Copa America. Ugh. There is still a tendency, and a strong one at that, for the best to rise and get a chance, no matter what background their family comes from. I was put onto Hoop Dreams from one of the researchers I asked to interview for this video. I don't know, bro. And that culture of moving your black kid to over an hour away to a white school for them to get a better chance, also known as navigational capital in academic speak, is still prevalent. In that tweet that I showed in the beginning, there was one particular guy who had something to say about NBA players not coming from the trenches no more. And that guy was Donovan Mitchell. In a Players Tribune feature in 2019, Donovan detailed how, in the 3rd grade, he was put into a private school called Greenwich Country Day, one of the best schools in the country, 30 minutes away from where he lived and where he stayed with a host family. He was one of the only black kids at the school, and he says it was a totally different world. To the point, actually, where he told his 9-year-old self that he would buy his mom a house there, which he did. When he got into AAU, he said, he felt bad for his mom and his sister because they would drive me all over New York City and New Jersey on the weekends to play in AAU tournaments. My mom probably put like 500,000 miles in that old Toyota Camry. Donovan definitely didn't have a silver spoon in his mouth growing up, and it was tough for them, especially for his mother, who rose him and his sister all by herself. I didn't understand how much she was sacrificing for us. I'll never forget the time I came back out the car one day to grab something I forgot, and I saw her sitting there in tears, all by herself. We had no idea, but at the time, she was always worried about how she was going to pay the rent that month. Her whole vision was to do whatever it took just to get us to graduate from Country Day. Donovan went to private school from 3rd grade all the way to graduation, and transferred in his junior year of high school to Brewster Academy in New Hampshire, a boarding school that happened to have one of the best basketball programs in the state. Wonder what happened there. Anyways, the point that I'm getting at is that sure, it is possible to make it without having means, but there are infinite commitments that the family has to endure that, for some people, just aren't possible. Donovan came from a single parent household, and his mom fought tooth and nail for him to get the best possible opportunities. Opportunities that probably wouldn't have come his way if his mom didn't do the impossible. He was a bit of a late bloomer. He wasn't in the top 100 recruits till his junior year. His mom didn't care really for him making it to the league. She did it out of her pure dedication and at the expense of her well-being. Is this the right way for a child in the United States of America, the land of freedom, opportunity, and the like, to get a shot at their dream? Oh, of course not. But that's how it is for the children of families that don't have. And while their children may have the latent potential, they aren't able to capitalize because they simply don't have the means. According to a study done by Josh Dubrow, the guy who put me on to Hoop Dreams, among African Americans, a child raised in the lower class family has a decreased likelihood of 37% to become an NBA player than a child raised in middle or upper class families. An analogous figure for whites shows that children from lower class families are even more disadvantaged, decreased likelihood of 75%. These guys are Chris Knuster and James Thompson, professors of sociology at Ohio State University, and the authors of a paper about the inherent advantages that children from a higher socioeconomic status receive.
You know, somebody who would be really active in their high school sports, somebody who is captain, who's participating potentially in multiple sports, even somebody like that, some of the numbers that we're able to see is that the people who are in the bottom kind of quintile, the bottom fifth of the socioeconomic distribution, have about a 22% chance of playing college sports. Whereas for the top quintile, the top 20% of the distribution, it's closer to 35%.
It seems like relative to other sports, basketball isn't as reliant on social class status at the high school level, but certainly it seems to matter to go beyond in terms of being able to afford a variety of different organized sports in order to be able to coordinate schedules and carry off transportation and being able to fit the bill.
And the youth system is not doing them any favors.
The meshing of how the youth sports industry became more monetized, more privatized, led to a number of things that provided more advantages to people with higher socioeconomic status. They were able to leverage essentially their knowledge and resources, social connections, a willingness and ability to pay for things, to seek out preferred opportunities, whether it's training or the highest levels of competition or exposure. And meanwhile, those processes serve to essentially winnow out people who couldn't stick with it.
This is Matt Young, a sports consultant and youth sports development advocate. His TED Talk, one of the only videos on YouTube, talking about the American basketball youth problem, piqued my interest, so I gave him a ring.
There's a lot of good people in sport, I'll say that. They're the exception, they're not the norm. The norm is inexperienced, the norm is ego, the norm is old school, the norm is self-interested. There's so much commerce wrapped up in this selling of the dream. And because there's no regulation in sport, there's no regulatory body, there's no minister of sport in the United States of America who says, you know, you're not doing that.
And what does that mean for kids in the system?
Statistics are showing that we are burning them out. They can get injured. They're not having a well-rounded experience, undue pressure, unrealistic expectations, stress, burnout, a diminished enjoyment of the sport. That's starting at 6 and 7 years old with travel teams and travel ball and AAU. And I think I saw something that they released the top 100 first graders in basketball. And it was serious.
We're now getting at the root of the issue. We all know the more money you have, the easier it is to succeed. It's kind of how capitalism works. But it's not just that. More families in America have more means than ever, and way more hoop dreams. Project Mbappe is alive and well in America. Except it's not Mbappe, it's like Luca Shea or something. According to a 2015 Anscape article, there are kids, or should I say families, that put basketball first and foremost. This manic chase for the athletic scholarship are kids who, year-round, play only basketball. The NCAA Goals Survey shows that 49% of men in Division I basketball and 55% of women specialized in basketball by age 12. But if we take a look at the best players to ever play the game, we'll see something different. Kobe Bryant.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds? Or and you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How did you not score?
Because I was terrible.
LeBron James started playing organized ball at 5th grade and was an all-state receiver in high school. And Michael Jordan.
I started baseball when I was 6, but I really didn't start basketball until I was 12.
Well, did you have any idea that it could be like this?
No.
No.
By no means. And if that was the case, if it was something that I probably was chasing, I would have never gotten it.
These are the words and testimonies of the greatest to have ever played. Yet the AAU cycle, let me put this down. Yet the AAU cycle, which is a money-sucking abomination of a youth development organization, is the only way to get noticed as an NBA hopeful. As the AAU game continues to progress, it becomes a race to see who can get their kids in first. And guess for whose benefit? Hint, it's not the kids. Anyways, we're getting off topic. This is about the Nepo babies, the seconds, the juniors, all that, right, in the league. They're coming in by the droves. From 1981 to 2001, the percentage of second-generation players in the NBA went from 1.3% to 1.6%. From 2001 to 2024, that number has quadrupled to over 7%. Not only that, but in the 2024 top 75 high school recruits, 15 of them have NBA fathers. Names like Anthony, Boozer, and Arenas are making the rounds yet again. But this time it's like Bart's. Bro, I'm not finishing that. That's terrible. There's an easy explanation for this. I mean, just look at the Currys. They grew up around the lights of the professional basketball scene. It was normal for them. And of course, Dell gave them professional training facilities and training strategies. I mean, we're talking about a guy who made $20 million over his entire career, which by the way, his Suns are making now in like one season. Getting Steph and Seth involved in the game was easy, a cinch, a walk in the park. If the Suns wanted to play ball, they would, and would be doing so in the best environment that the world could offer. This is a common trend you'll see. Devin Booker, son of brief NBA employee Melvin Booker, was asked by Melvin at the age of 13 if he really wanted to play basketball. Devin said yes. And Melvin literally said, "It was my duty as a former player to show him how to play," which meant moving him from Mississippi to Florida and becoming his full-time trainer. If you're familiar with a few top hoopers, you'll see that this is a common trend. Bobo lived in my area and Jada Williams went to my high school. And they both up and went to California to go play for better teams. That's just what high-level hoopers do. They travel. And travel a lot. It's just the name of the game. To play the best, you gotta see the best. But like I said before, AAU is the race to see who can get there first. If you're not on the radar from the beginning, it's just that much harder later on to get noticed. So therefore, we have middle schoolers traveling across the nation to play other middle schoolers with their already expensive teams, which, by the way, how expensive is it? According to another study, American private sports clubs have ballooned to a $15 billion industry, with 63% of parents paying $1,200 to $6,000 annually for their kids to participate in sports. For basketball in particular, it's become one of the most expensive sports, with parents paying an average annual amount of $1,002 per year. In order to accommodate for such high prices, well, some don't. 42% of lower-class families say that the prices are a huge barrier to getting their children into sports. It's just too much. And even if they make to the point where their sons are NBA hopefuls, they're gonna have to travel with their AAU club, which is already, by the way, on average 170 miles away from the kid's high school. The results of these stressors have revealed themselves already at the collegiate level. The percent of D1 hoopers being the first in their family to attend college plummeted from 28% to 19%, while women's basketball experienced a similar drop. And mind you, this study was conducted 10 years ago. Donovan Mitchell's story may as well be the bare minimum if you're from a lower class background and have a child who expects to make the NBA, unless your family's already gone through the struggle and are now millionaires and are willing to jump to more hoops, which of course is happening more and more often. Now, you might be thinking as you're watching this video, well, if the kid's good enough, they're gonna be paid for, right? Which, yeah, that's true, but
they would have to be so damn good that a club or organization sponsored them. So they would have to go look for scholarships and sponsorships. That has its inherent limitations. Who's got time to do that? Where's that process? Where do I go? Do I need to travel? Can I even get there? Those parents are probably working their asses off, probably 2 jobs. And how do they have the time to do that? So they would have to dedicate themselves at some point, somehow. I don't know whether it's from midnight to 4 a.m. videos and doing all that and making the contacts and being relentless. So it would be like a part-time job for them to do that. And then what happens if the kids don't make it? Yeah, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what that could look like and how that could be perceived. So
if the parents are unable to make that kind of sacrifice, or something else comes up in the family, or one of 1,000 other things that could go wrong sorry, you're out of luck. Let's turn our attention now to one Tremont Waters, a New Haven kid who made it out the ghetto and onto an NBA floor. He's now playing for the Guangdong Tigers, but that's neither here nor there. In the 6th grade, his parents sent him to a private school called Greens Farms, an hour away by train, where at 6 in the morning every weekday, he would wake up and go to school. They couldn't really afford the tuition, but they sent him there anyways. When he got there, they had to hold him back an entire year because the teacher said he didn't learn enough at his old school. When he made it to high school, he was offered a spot at a boarding school called South Kent. He excelled there and got a basketball scholarship to LSU, and eventually ended up on the Boston Celtics. Hooray. But not so fast. Tremont's dad, Ed Waters, while seeing his son make his dream come true, saw his life fall apart because of it. Ed Waters said the stress and cost of extracting his son from the local school and moving him into Greens Farms compromised his health. His weight ballooned to 400 pounds. Doctors diagnosed him with high blood pressure, diabetes, a stroke, and sleep apnea. This is what Ed had to say about it. He felt like a man going down as his son was going up. There are many nights when my wife and I didn't have any answers, but you can't fly unless you jump off a cliff. There are many families that simply can't make that jump. In Tremont's sophomore year of high school, he and Ed went to a high school New Haven hoops game. There, Ed was shocked. We counted up to 40 young men who used to be the man, and now they have nothing to do with the sport. I'm talking kids who were good when they were 12, 13, 14. These were kids that Tremont played with, and Tremont was the least talented back then. Now these kids are never going to use the game to get a free degree. 40 kids, it was like, wow, are you serious? It was at that time that Ed knew, even though he had to jump off a cliff for his son, it was the right thing to do. And it was, until...
Breaking news out of West Haven right now. We are learning that the father of the local rookie guard just picked by the Boston Celtics has died. Police say Edward Waters Jr. was found dead in a hotel room in West Haven. Just last month, Waters sat proudly next to his son, Tremont Waters, as he was selected by the Celtics in the NBA draft.
The cause of death was ruled to be a suicide. Sometimes, even if you are successful, the cost may be too much. Paul Hewitt, the former head coach for Georgia Tech and the current G League coach for the Los Angeles Clippers, who also didn't respond to my email for an interview, I'm not salty, said that this kind of stuff wasn't surprising. Coaches are being asked to recruit different zip codes. So 60, 63, 7? Yeah, nuh-uh. Why? Well, because of course it's less of a hassle. The kids in the right zip codes are going to be at the showcases that your scouts are at. Also, they're probably going to be raised right. And hey, they've got great training. This has been the soccer way, the white upper middle class sport that it is in America. But it's slowly becoming the hoops way as well. In this article, there is a couple that have a whopping 3 trainers for their 5th grade son. And that was just to try and get him a college scholarship, which, by the way, he didn't even get. How much more for Melo and LeBron, who have children with hoop dreams? Their families had to struggle to get to the point they are today. Why the hell would they want the same type of journey for their own sons? Come on. Now, the important part. Where does that leave the quote-unquote trench babies? They'll always be there. It's just that now, more than ever, in this rat race to chase the ever-sweetening NBA and NIL bags, it's gonna take a lot more to get there. And if you're rich, it's no issue. And it all comes easy. If you have the incredible fortune of being an NBA hopeful born into an NBA family, you've basically got it made. The genetics, the training, the luck, the drive, the coaching, it's all there. The NBA is kind of becoming a daddy's money league. Because the guys who made it out the hood, making $20, $30, $40 million a year, are now able to give their sons what they never had. It's a beginning of this beautiful concept, to an extent, of generational wealth. The resources are more abundant than ever, and the former have-nots are taking advantage because they're now the haves. If daddy's money means that daddy had to get out the hood to make that paper, so be it. What can you do? The real issue here is the system put in place to give significant advantage to those who already have. While we can root for the success stories of those who came before us, we have to remember those whose stories haven't yet been told, and to be aware that if this system is left unchecked, their stories may never be. Thanks for watching.